Good, fairly early Sunday morning, everybody. I got up early and thought that we would do day two because I was watching Sabrina's live on day two last night and got really excited about the die that's in here. If you're just joining us, we made two ornaments yesterday on day one. We made this really cool 3D one. I did make sort of an error on this, as I guess you can't really tell, but you can see here, like the knot that on this particular twine was pretty big, so it kind of pushed the ornament open a little bit. It's not super duper noticeable, but I don't know. And with these, you do kind of need to like fluff them every so often. I think the knot is causing these to not be completely perfect. But like, if you hang it on a tree, you're really going to see one side. So anyway, I had a lot of fun. And I used the greenery piece, and it's hard to see the color here. Here we go. If you look on my Instagram, this is sort of true to life color, but if you look on my Instagram, you can probably see that my camera just went off. Awesome. Anyway, we will fix that. Hey, Linda, good morning. As we are, of course, there we go. We're upside down, but not for long. I saw your post. My cats were also up at the normal time for them, because I think they must be from Arizona and don't observe daylight savings time. Anyway, I had a lot of fun with this one. I kind of feel like this would be good in a less vibrant color. Like if this had been done in sort of more of a, I don't know, country style pattern paper, I think it would look cool too. Because everything else other than the gold is fairly neutral. Anyway, I kind of like the idea that you can use these for both, but let's look at today and see. I did wind up like ripping the bottom out of the calendar last time. Whoops. So we'll see if we have a die today. We really wrecked this today. We don't have a die, but I watched the live, so let's see if we can't find the die, hopefully. Here we go. So this is one of the dies. And this goes here. And then this hook is one of the dies. And then there are dies that have just fallen out. We will here's the last one. I'm not showing you the other dies in here, but there are other dies. Let me see if I can't sort these out, hopefully. I don't know what goes in day 3. I'm going to guess this goes in day 3. And the rest of these, I think, are the size they're supposed to be. Okay. And there's that probably goes there. Okay. Hopefully we can, I don't know, I should find a way. I don't know if there's a way to glue this together without actually just gluing it in. Let's leave the side we're working on down, and hopefully everything will stay in its little things. Sorry about that. Our camera is quite bright. Well, actually, it's not too bad. We can bring down the lighting's a little harsh because it is. Oh, because it went back to auto. Sorry about that, folks. Here we go. Normal lighting has been resumed. Anyway, so very similar to the ball, we get an ornament that you can make a honeycomb out of. And then we get this really cool decorative plate. in this hook, which would have been super handy to have yesterday, because then we could have just die cut this twice out of like a thick cardstock, and it will create a loop here. So I really let's try the style of ornament we didn't do yesterday. So that one is going to be die cutting 5 of each of these and probably 2 of the hook. But let's think about color scheme. Hello, Lori. Good morning. And I'm thinking there was a really cool navy color scheme that Sabrina's mother, Kiki, did last night on their live stream. It was navy and gold, which was like a very sort of nutcrackery color scheme. But let me see. I'm thinking to do sort of a muted red and silver because you don't see that. Or we could do red and gold. We could do a matte. I have the matte gold. So let me grab some cardstock. That is not the color I want. That is. I like this blue a lot. That's an option. What color is this? Real red. Every red except the one I want, of course. This is. Let's see. Red and green. So this is the red I was thinking of. It's a really nice sort of muted red. It's more of a cardinal than like a Christmas red. Let me grab some sparkly paper. And this is sort of a light gold. Wow, that's not showing the real color. This is a light gold glitter paper. It's really low shed, which is nice. I think it is the vinyl back paper that Sabrina and her mom had talked about being slightly harder to cut. But I'm thinking I can't decide. I almost want to cut the base layer out of this and then do the decorative layer out of red. Because I feel like if I did the decorative layer out of this, the red would get lost. So, and then we probably need something heavyweight to do the hook out of. Let's do that out of like a heavyweight white, and then we can ink blend on it to make it a color we want. Or we could do it out of brown. Nice brown would be nice. So let's do brown. I changed my mind again. So I don't need a bunch of this because the hook's fairly small. I think I want to cut it twice. Whoop. Oh, hello. Good morning. Hey, Kel, how are you? Good morning. Yes, the kitty is here to amuse you while I am looking for paper. So I think we'll do the hook out of this. I think we will do the base of the ornament. Let's just cut this so it fits on my die cut machine. Yeah, and we might up needing 5 of these, so let's do that, and then I think I will cut the decorative piece out of this red. I'm always a little torn because it takes a while to die cut stuff, but these ornaments kinda go together pretty fast, so I don't know. I've been kind of like a I like the opening part of the advent calendar, and it seemed anticlimactic to be like, "Hey, I already opened the advent calendar and die cut all these things," but, then we're gonna do this for the fancy layer. Let me grab my platform. I probably can't get 2 things on here at once, so I will be back once this hook is cut, and then we will cut these guys, and then we can make an ornament. I learned a good tip that I didn't know was a thing, actually, on the Scrappy Tales live last night, which is that after a bunch of cuts, the sticky coat, like the anti-stick coating on your dies that basically keep the paper from sticking to the die wears off, but you can restore it with either dryer sheets. Oh, this is very nice. That's pretty. Or wax paper, which I had never run into that until I prepped for a crop last year and actually had that happen after I cut, ran the same die through like 200 times. Not a thing I would have thought of course, but that was sort of my first mass make for like other people. So I don't know. I feel like I learned some things as a result of that were quite helpful. Anyway, mostly, like, even though you have a cute card design, like, you might wanna think about how many of them you're actually gonna have to cut, because sometimes it's a lot. Here we are. So here's 2. How thick are I think these will be okay. They're very dainty. I think if I do 2 back to back, yeah, that creates a this is about 80-pound paper. This is Stampin' Up! Pecan Pie, which I think is gonna look really nice with this color scheme. Anyway, I think 2 will be okay. If not, we can always come back and cut more. We have plenty of items here. So let's go and make our fancy part. Let me see. Oh, hey, Shanna, how are you? Oh, and folks who are used to my normal live schedule, yes, I'm going live tonight at my normal time as well. This is just sort of because there's a lot of Christmas stuff to do. We're doing 2 daily lives on Sundays until we get through our 12 days. So I will be live tonight at 6 o'clock Central with my friend Elizabeth on at least my channel. I don't know if she'll be streaming out to her channel or not. I think I don't know. StreamYard lets you do that, but I know that people have sort of warned against it in the sense of like from a YouTube standpoint, it looks like you're kind of reusing content, and YouTube is not a fan. Anyway, let me die cut this, and we will be back. See if third time's the charm. This paper didn't. Oh, this worked, I think. Yeah, this paper is a very thick bottom layer. So the good news is we have our score in here very nicely. And there's this like finial or like drippy part on the bottom of the ornament that is trickier to cut. So let me see if I can cut more of these. This took several passes through to work, which was a little more intensive than I was hoping for on a Sunday morning. And it really it curled the paper quite a bit. So let me try one more, and if it doesn't work, we can make it more paper. So I did a triple pass this time, and we'll see if that works well or not. It still has the same problem, which is it doesn't. You still have to kind of pull it out. So I think this is the. This must be a plastic coating of some sort on the bottom of this paper. So I'm being a little careful with the tip here. What we're going to do is put these back to back when we get them all cut. So it will look like that. And then you'll be able to see the detail layer in there. But the triple pass seems to do it with a little extra pressure on my die machine than I would normally use for something. But that is a little more work than I was looking for on a Sunday morning. Hello, Melissa. Good morning. But this is really pretty paper. So I'm not mad at the paper. It's just the process is a little much. Actually, if you were mass making these, having a bunch of the same outline die would be good. So this time, we'll see if it worked. Yeah, it doesn't seem to matter how many passes I run it through, as long as I do 3 at minimum. Because basically the bottom doesn't fully cut out. I wonder if you cut it out. I don't really want to cut it out backwards because I want the score line where the score line is. But anyway, good to know. I don't think this would matter if you were like just using this paper normally. I think it's more of a die and pressure thing. But allegedly, I don't have. I want to get some Michael's White glitter card stock today and try that out. But we only need 2 more of these. So you'll kind of get your workout in if you use vinyl back paper. Actually, I won't even bother. I guess the nice thing, except it's sort of more of a flaw than a benefit, is since they don't pop out, you could just move your die and then not have to worry about them shifting around too much. You could also, of course, just use like normal cardstock and use your glitter slash mica paste on it. So these each have 3 passes, and you just basically need to pull along the seam to get it to cut out. It's sort of interesting. I don't know. I don't know if a Gemini would do better. I know that I think this particular paper is just more designed to work as paper than to die cut, which is fine. Because when you do this, the seams are still pretty. The only thing I wouldn't like is if, like, like the point is still a point. It's just this, whatever this membrane is on the bottom doesn't fully cut out. But it's the not pretty side of the paper, so it doesn't bother me that much. Anyway, this was not anybody's paper I'd ever heard of. It was an Amazon special. But I think when we switch over to decent paper, you'll see how much easier this is to deal with. Although this ornament will have some parts to poke out. Well, it kind of. I forgot to reduce the pressure on my machine, and it just popped out like crazy. We'll see how much of this. Ideally, you won't have to like weed this forever. You could run a rake tool over this, I think, but we will see. There are a bunch of little pieces that are all stuck in the die now, but they cut out pretty nicely. So this, I'm sorry, this is hard to see, isn't it? We'll use our helpful envelope, but this is what the pretty layer looks like. And we are going to cut these in half so that we don't, so that the score line here is still free. That's pretty much that. And we just need 4 more of these. Now, if I was a very diligent person, I would poke all the little papery bits out of here, but I'm just going to run it through and hope that it works. I think if you have one of those rake tools, like, I think I have one here. Like one of these die rake tools, they can help you get all the little bits out. Actually, we could try that and see if it works. But I actually have never used this for this particular function. So in theory, you can just like do this, and it will help to, and it does. It will help to basically get all the little bits out. The only downside is this die has a lot of little bits. I mean, all these decorative layers are going to. So, I mean, it's not like unique to this. And then you can bring in your pokey tool if something's being a little tricky, like this little. And there's a cat. Utilizing cat things. So that does actually work. You can also rake it like before you pop it out if you're worried about that. But using like a normal cardstock, these dies cut great. It's just that paper we started with was kind of wonky. But because it's very tough, it's probably going to not fall apart. So, I mean, good news for the ornament recipient. But I am kind of liking this almost like platinum gold and red together. I think this is going to be really pretty. And if you wanted to have this be more silvery, you could just die cut one of these out of like silver mirror and then just cut the top off. But I think this is going to be a fun color combo. I like that a lot. I like that they're both sort of muted variants of their respective colors. Which is kind of fun. Which of these? I know there's a hole here that will poke the actual. Oh, here we go. I think we got it. Maybe not. There we go. And sort of poke the bottom part of this teardrop out and then pull it out. And then, as you can see, we got pretty great. All the little bits fell out, which is nice. Nicer than the alternative. I mean, I do think this isn't quite a magic mat, but the Bria Craft version of the magic mat helps that a bit. So let's do a couple more of these. How do I like printer paper? Oops. Oh, no, I didn't. That's a good idea. That's a good idea. We will try that. Let me finish cutting these guys and then let's take a peek. Let's see if that works. I'm curious. If that works, I'm going to feel really silly, but we have a little left over on that piece. So I think that's worth trying out. Here's my pokey tool. Where are all my pokey tools? I have many pokey tools out today. A piece of printer paper. You definitely want to try and pull from the bottom, I think. Yeah, now I do need to clean that die a bit. Because everything cut, but now I'm having to poke it out, and it's not my favorite thing. Although most of these actually came out, which is interesting. There we go. That's sort of the pro con of these delicate dies, of course, is that you spend a little more time fussing with them, but they do look really cool once they're done. If you want to make less of a mess than I'm making, someone showed me that you could like use those things that those little trays like cans of cat food and stuff like that come in. You can use that as just sort of a catch-all. There we go. I absolutely love Gloria's pokey tools for fine dies because they really make getting into these little holes a lot easier. There we go. This is definitely a die that, like, if you clean it every time, you will have a lot nicer time. But let's grab that because that's our mystery paper. Anyway, we just need 2 more, I think. Because most of the time I have used Michael's paper, which tends to be more paper on the back. which I've always used because I like the fact that it makes gluing a lot easier because, since the back is porous, you don't quite have to deal with as much of the long dry time because I had issues with that with in the past. And if any little pieces do stick, you can always just go and poke them out. Given that we're gonna then cut these in half and glue them and do other things, you have a couple more chances to do that as well. There are a couple here. There we go. Lennox says good morning to all you. And you all know this is sort of will be a interesting series because I don't usually use highly decorative dyes because they require a lot of poking out of things. This would be kind of a good test too, though, to see if that using wax paper thing actually works to make these less sticky. 'Cause I think with all the little bits here, they would feel sticky sooner. That makes sense. And I think because I use often I'll do the delicate layers out of foil, you don't notice it as much. Anyway, one more of these, and then we can try a little test. Because now I'm really curious if that will work. I hear a cat investigating something. Oops. That worked out pretty well. Ooh, everything fell out that time. Okay, so we have our 5. And we'll just clean this out for our own later sanity. Oh, this has a really interesting. Oh, that's neat. Oh, this is a weeding tool, not a pokey tool. That's why it has a. Oh, wow. There we go. Okay, most of that is taken care of. So let's toss all this. And I know people have also said if you do have trouble cutting, cutting against an actual solid plate is easier, but let's do I have printer paper? No, I have an envelope. Oh, I probably have printer paper somewhere. Well, that's printer paper, but it has nice things on it. That is not printer paper. We do have all this thin weight cardstock. Let's try this out. So, Melissa's thought was to put a thinner paper, and this is really thin. So let's see what happens if Lennox messes up our camera. Thank you. I'm just going to put the paper on top and see how this cuts out because I'm curious. Sorry, you are on my ornament area. Can you scoot your butt? Oh, let's not be on top of all the pieces. So the top layer definitely cut out, and our bottom layer did about the same. Actually, no, that's not true. It worked much better when you put paper on top. Obviously not a full one, but this had a lot less resistance. So good tip. I will do that next time. That worked a lot better. And I bet if I had adjusted the pressure back down, I would have gotten it to cut out. Anyway, thanks for bearing with me while I die cut a bunch of stuff. So I think I will put our little hook together first. You can see this is kind of like the greenery. This has this nice little tab part here on the bottom to make it easier. I'm going to be somewhat judicious with the glue. The other thing you can do for these like really fine pieces is you can just put a little glue on your hand. And hopefully not drop your die cut on the floor. But we found it. I'm just going to line up the bottoms and then line up all the other things. So we have our little ornament hook string thingy. This is a lot smaller than the knot that I tied in the other one, so I think this will work well. You'd probably want to actually, like this is fairly small, so I think you'd actually put a Christmas hook on this or something. But 2 layers of cardstock and glue it's pretty sturdy. Less so than string probably. I did actually find some of my silver and gold floss too, so. And there is a score line down the middle of this decorative piece. It's a little tricky to see. But basically what we want to do is just cut through. Oh, there's one little piece in there. We just want to cut down the middle here. And there's a couple different ways we could do that. I wouldn't use a drop-in trimmer because you might mangle this a bit. I would probably just use scissors because I think that's going to be the easiest way to do this. There we go. So now we have 2 sides, and when we glue these down, we don't need to obstruct our score line so that these sides can continue to move. But look how nice that is. That's going to be a really fun ornament. Uh, there's a very fine tip on these. It looks like these are slightly smaller. Let me just fold one of these out and so we can look at this. So this does inset a little bit, but not by much. You can see like these are almost, actually I'm wrong. These are exactly the same size. So you want to line up your edge. So don't listen to the thing I just told you. So you do want to basically line these up exactly to the edge like this. There we go. And then you want to obscure your glue line. So I'll show you the other way you can glue these. Let me see if I missed anything. Hey, Jana, good morning. How are you? Hopefully everybody. He is. He's intrigued by everything, so I don't know. The other way you can do this is if you don't mind getting glue on you, you can just put a little like pile of glue. You don't really need a precision glue tip for this, but what you can do is put it on some place on your hand that you're unlikely to get into it, and then you can just dab. And when you dab, it's going to get pretty good coverage without like waterlogging the paper. I don't love this approach, and that's why I don't use it very much. The other thing is with the PVA glue, it's not going to be too much of a pain to get this down. The thing to pay attention to, though, is because we are using a glitter paper, it will take a little more futzing with it than if we didn't. But this is attaching pretty nicely. So that's sort of our final look. But I think I like just dabbing glue. So I'm going to clean that off. You also have to make sure you do this. Uh, you don't let the glue dry on you because then it can be kind of a pain. Well, getting it off is really easy because this stuff is all water soluble. But let me just poke this a little to just get any extra bits. But the other way to do it is how I usually do it, which is I'm going to concentrate mostly on the bottom and the top and the edges, and then just sort of dab glue other places. You know, the glue does dry matte, so as long as your edges are down, it should be just fine. I'm going to just rotate it and make sure our top is lined up because that's probably going to be the most noticeable, and then just push down everything else. And because we cut this in the middle, it's going to be a lot easier for the ornament itself to fold. And what you can do, similar to yesterday, is once these are pretty much down, as you can see, I didn't cut that entirely evenly, but once they're down, you can just use a weight and then give that about a minute. And once it sort of had some time to adhere, I can read chat. And oh, is Lala streaming? Oh, I didn't realize that. I'll have to check her out on the replay. Then you can just sort of your finished look, which is quite elegant. If anything decides to pull up once it's fully glued, once it's fully dry, you can go back in and retouch it. We will let that one dry and see if we can't cut this more straight this time. There we go. That worked out better. Is Lala in a Christmas mood today too, or is I don't know. As I think other people have mentioned yesterday, it's kind of funny because it's like we get super Halloweeny as crafters until about the 31st, and then it's sort of like come November 1st, it's Christmas everywhere. Oh, that's interesting. That on this paper, the these pieces do not slide at all, which is kind of intriguing. Just going to just squish it to make sure that any glue on here is basically squeegeed down so it'll adhere to the glitter. Glitter, usually you're going to have a little less nice adhesion with your papers just because it's not a flat surface. It's essentially a rough surface, which you probably didn't need me to tell you, but there you go. Whoops. Well, that's not a thing we wanted to do. I inadvertently glued my two decorative pieces together. There we go. And then you could just put a weight on this. And giving these time to dry is really the thing that's going to help you out. Generally, if your paper is more, and I think this is mounted on like a plastic layer on the bottom, it is going to take a little bit more time to dry than normal. And these ornaments are a little bit more fussy than in the one we did yesterday. Of course, it doesn't have to be. You could just take one of these and then mount it flat. If you mounted this whole thing flat, as like you can use this as just a flat card element too. It doesn't necessarily need to be an ornament. So you could just mount that and then do something for a string. Actually, you could use these for a string the same way. You just sort of stick this behind and then you have this kind of a look going on. So you could definitely use these as flat elements pretty easily too. I'm gonna figure out which is the not pretty side of my die, so I know which way this goes down, and just continue on this. I do find if you work with the base layer, fold it a little bit, it helps you not overlap the score line too much. And if you're the other option to using a block is you can just use a bone folder to do your glue squeegeeing, which helps you sort of get the alignment you want a little more precisely. Because when you with the block, you can kind of smash it down, and then it doesn't do that anymore. Oh, I heard a cat causing mischief, but he's causing mischief in kind of a not too problematic way, which is nice. Oops. Uh, Now you don't know if there's a way to do this without getting yourself to some degree gluey as part of the process. Probably not if I'm doing it, but I would guess one of your more. Uh, Oops, that's not really aligned very nicely, is it? Sort of the pro to the glitter paper not drying as quickly is it gives you a lot more working time. So if you're used to like PVA glues that set instantaneously, this sets a little bit less instantaneously. But there's our third one done. And we'll just give these all really are going to benefit from some dry. I mean, the 3D ornaments generally are going to benefit from more dry time, I would say. There we go. Like the one we did yesterday, like once it's all together, I would just sort of leave it alone for a few minutes. At least before you try and like manipulate it and or hang it on a tree or whatever. Whatever you may be doing. It seems early for Christmas trees for me, but I also saw a lot of posts on my socials yesterday of friends of mine who were putting up their Christmas tree yesterday. So, I'm definitely into the ready for crafting, but not quite ready for decorating my own house. I don't know. I know Lala has mentioned a few times. Yeah, you could glue them whole as well because there's a score line down the middle. You don't really need to cut these apart, especially because with this particular design, you're not folding. You know what I mean? Like you're only folding, I don't know, whatever a fifth of 360 is. It's a little early for me to do math, but yeah, what you could do here is I think we could try that. So if you glue these on and fold, there's a corresponding score line on the pretty piece. So let's try that because that would be let's work. And so if you could see there's a score line here. It's a little tricky to like it's a little tricky to deal with because it's on a very thin part here. but it exists and you can use it. I'm just going to pre-fold it a little bit just to get that score line in. Let's see how this works. Because once it's down, I think you're correct, Shannon, that it would be easier. And I'm all about making this process easier. Because really, most of the work for this ornament is die cutting everything. Because once you're done with that, it goes together. So let's try your idea. Whoops. I'm just gonna pull this back. And then this is pretty easy to set up because they are the same size. I did just get glue everywhere, but that's okay. Then what we would do is just like that. Give it a little squeegee, give it a little squeegee. And this folds a lot. That actually works just great. Yeah, this folds quite nice easily. I'm going to give this a moment to dry before I start trying to manipulate it. But we can go back to the other one. So those are the kind of the two looks you get. So if you use the whole piece and don't do the cut, if you use the cut, you get this sort of score line in the middle. And then when this comes together, this line is kind of the same size as these other ones. Anyway, all we're going to really do is put these back to back and glue them. Kind of like what we did before, except we're going to fully glue them because the backside of this glitter paper is not pretty. And this is going to give you 4 layers once this is all together. So it's going to be pretty sturdy. And then we will have to figure out, I don't think it matters. We just, for one of these, we probably want to tuck the string in. Well, actually, I guess we would want to align it flat, probably. So I think we probably want to score this, or at least fold it a little bit so that, yeah, we probably want to just fold this tag a little bit so it will fold easily. I'm just going to loosen that a little bit. Let's put a little glue on the tab. Then line this up. Oops, sorry, I'm a little off camera. And then just sort of fit it to kind of the angle we want here. It'll be kind of like this. And then this is our last one. Then we just basically just coat this with glue. I mean, you don't need a complete ton here, just like that. Sorry, white on white is hard to see. I just used a little bit of glue everywhere, but and all we basically need to do is make sure our tips and tops line up and just sort of squeeze this with our hands. And because I think this is a plastic, it may take a little bit longer to glue, but this feels like it's adhering, so I think we're good. And then this is kind of, this is a time when, now I don't know where I put them, but if you had picked up, oh, here's one. So if you had utilized any of the clip options we talked about last time, this would be could basically clip the tips on these to kind of keep it together. And then we see where I put those. I don't know where I put the rest of my clips. Oh well, something you find after the live stream. But you put a little clip there. You can also clip it on top, and that will just help these two stay together. This PBA dries pretty fast, although with this kind of a project, it's going to dry a little less fast than what you'd be used to if you were just used to working with paper. So I'm going to do the same thing. It doesn't really matter what side you glue. At least that's my story, and I'm sticking to it. You just need to line this up so you don't see any white, ideally. Going to clip this. I think really the tip is where you probably need to focus your most attention in terms of making sure things are lined up. But I mean, once this is together, obviously it's going to be hanging like this. So, like, unless if it's relatively close, I think people will see it. So let's just put our clip here. And this string does hold it pretty well. Was like paper string. Was going to mention one other thing. Oh, if you're very much like an anti glitter shedding person, you can always. This is the last one we did, I think. So I don't know which one we did last. No, this one's cut. So um, you can always use some sort of a spray fixative on your glitter. It'll make it less glittery, but it will make it like not move around. I tend to like airbrush medium, which even though it doesn't sound like it is basically acrylic polymer, it's just a very low viscosity version. So it really works nicely for situations where you don't want to add a lot of bulk. Then the nice thing about these little clips is they can really get into things like, the tip here that would be hard to do with a larger clip. Now we can see. Yeah, I think you're right, Shanna. I don't think there's actually a major benefit to cutting them, and it's a pain. This is the not cut one, and it looks perfectly fine. I mean, I think if you cut it, you get like I don't know. It looks more symmetrical when you have a line down the middle and all these other lines, but I think like that's probably like a no one would probably notice that unless they were um like into making cards themselves. So if you want to leave this with 4, you do get some sort of a nice vignette look if you do 4. If you do 5, which is what we're gonna do, um, it winds up looking like sort of more of a star. So both looks work well. You could certainly do 2 as well and just mount them back to back as if you wanted to do that. So, and then for this last one, I'm going to put glue on both surfaces because both surfaces need to adhere. You could also do one at a time if you wanted to. And we're just going to hold this and then just try to hold this carefully for a minute or so. We could bring back in our clip as well if we wanted to. You can glue instantaneously. And don't drop your ornament. That's not advised. You can see you can sort of manipulate the tip a little bit. You get sort of a hole here. So if you wanted to, you could certainly fill that in with glue as well. You see, because of the white of these papers, you do get a little white on the edges. So if you didn't like that, you could always go over this with you could ink these edges of the glitter paper with red if that's not a look that you like. But that is basically our day 2 ornament, and I really like how this looks. I think it's just a lot of fun. I mean, especially if you had it hanging up somewhere. I don't know, I guess, what would that look like? It would be more like this profile, right? So you can sort of see how it looks very festive. The only thing I don't like is because this particular paper is white on the back. If I did this again, I would probably want to blend a little either gold or white on this, so that it would be more, or sorry, not white, or the red, just so that it stayed more in the color family. You could certainly go back and do it now, or you could do the same thing with an acrylic paint or whatever. It's a handmade paper ornament, so I don't think people would be super crazy about it. Anyway, but that is our project for this morning. I hope you all have a lovely rest of your Sunday. I will see everybody back here who wants to be back here at 6 p.m. So, anyway, that is our morning. That is, I really like this. I really like this elegant cover plate or this like detail die on this set. So, I mean, I think this would be a lot of fun. And you can see they are exactly the same size. So, and you do get the score line in this die, in both these dies. So I will be back at 6 with my friend Elizabeth, and we'll be doing something holiday-y. I'm not sure exactly what, but I've been having a lot of fun with this calendar. It looks like it took us about an hour to make this ornament. I think if you pre-die cut, these take about half an hour after you've done all your die cutting. So just FYI. Also, I've been using the very beefy. These are very like heavyweight, as you can see, plastic bag that came with the Advent calendar to just keep things separate. So I don't know. I've been quite happy with the value thus far because it seems like well, all these I would use again, and they're not like they're sort of they're generic enough ornaments that you could use them year over year because you could just change up the colors. So anyway, there is that. I was sort of thinking about the value of the Advent calendar, and it's sort of unique because all the other Scrabby Tales stuff I have are kind of like a base die that makes, 37 variants of basically the same thing, if that makes sense. It's sort of like, hey, it's a pop-up card. And what did I drop on the floor? Something. Oh, I dropped a pad of watercolor paper on the floor. But like, so this is a little different in that like you're gonna get 10 sort of different bases. So anyway, I think they're gonna look really cool. And here's my original ornament, right? So I think this would look really cool. Like this looks like a very sort of crafty, eclectic Christmas tree. So I think once they're all done, they're gonna look really neat with each other. And I'm going to bring them to my craft fair and see if it's a thing people are interested in, because you could definitely make a bunch of these. Anyway, it was great seeing you guys. Have a great rest of your day, and hopefully I'll see some of you tonight. And it would help if I had my outro music now, wouldn't it? Although StreamYard now has like this, it'll do your outro for you, intro and outro for you, which I haven't played with. Anyway, and if anyone was listening to my lamentations about losing my crafter stamp set, it did show up as I was organizing for a different live stream and looking for something different. But anyway, talk to you guys later. Have a great one.